and we aired that clip just a few moments ago, that part of our problem, and this is not to be misunderstood that you're suddenly somehow for earmarks and pork barrel spending, but you're for accountability. And that at least in the earmark process, we know where the money's going and where it can be spent. What we've seen in TARP, what we've seen in the stimulus package, particularly as these communities are now reselling their stimulus money, is we've got no accountability. And as bad as earmarks may be, they're better than a blank check.
Yeah, and I think I've come to the conclusion to defending earmarks in that sense isn't all that easy, because earmarks has a stigma attached, and rightfully so, because they've been so abused. And if you vote against all the spending bills, of course, you vote against all earmarks. But the principle is, should Congress designate how each dollar be spent? And that is my position. So if you talk about designation, maybe it doesn't arouse this fear that you're being corrupted if you earmark something. But we should designate everything. And I think you mentioned earlier this whole idea that the TARP funds had no designations, and it went overseas. I mean, that's the derelict of duty by the members of Congress. So we need to, of course, earmark it or designate it rather than just giving it to the administration. And the one thing that people have to realize, if anybody votes against an earmark, nothing happens to the budget. That money is still spent.
Which is really the bigger problem. That's the bigger problem, is that we're going to spend this money no matter what. That's the mindset in Washington. Maybe we ought to spend less.
Yeah, well, that's the real solution. But people say, well, if you vote against the bridge in the United States, you know what? The bridge may be built in Iraq.
We'll just spend it somewhere else.
That doesn't solve our problem.
Have you got a few more minutes, Congressman?
Yes.
There's a difference in pork barrel spending and earmark spending. And Congressman Ron Paul of Texas with us as we're trying to sort this out.
Yeah, I think there are two things going on here. One is the spending, overall spending, and almost all of it, as far as I'm concerned, is unconstitutional or wasteful, and that's why I vote against all the appropriation bills. But the other one, this whole earmark and designation process, is who gets to decide where the money is spent. And my argument is the Congress should do that, so that's why I say if you're going to spend it, you should designate exactly where it's going rather than allowing the executive branch to make those decisions. Then they carry all the political clout, and then they wheel and deal with the member of Congress. It's sort of the line item veto, giving it to the executive branch, and if you don't do what they want and vote for their projects, then they won't allow some of the district, some of the money to go to your district, and I want the control to be in the Congress. But the truth is, most of it is sort of could be categorized as pork, because even in the highway system, technically all the highway funds should be just left in those states, and the states pay for their own highways rather than coming up here and making a round trip. Education funds are the same way. Why make these round trips and then fight to get this money back? So that's why I just argue the case that the money should all be left at home. If it comes here, Congress has a responsibility to designate how it should be spent.
And that's the big problem with the stimulus plan. So much of it comes with so many strings attached. Last question, because I know you got to run to an appointment. Is there any way to stop this and turn this tide before the 2010 elections? Or are we just going to have to hunker down and know that bad things are going to continue to come?
Well, in a way, we don't want it to end before then, because if we did, that means it's collapsed. We don't have the votes here to come to our senses and do the right thing. So I'm afraid it's going to end with a calamity, which is, a dollar collapse. So let's just hope that we limp along and educate a lot more people and get a few more members up here to make the correct decisions. Right now, all they think they have to do is spend more money, borrow more money, run up higher debt, and print more money. That's how we got into the trouble. It can't possibly be the solution.
Congressman Ron Paul, keep up the great work. Thanks for being with us, and we'll get you back again soon.